This time it's a film that has eluded me for a long time, and I finally got an edition of this to watch. A film I've always heard about, never seen. It's very popular. 1976's The Food of the Gods, which is a classic giant creature film from the 70s. Uncle Bill here from DEADPIT Radio, though, and talking about this film is like, talking about a part of history in a way, because there was a time period in the 70s where giant monster slash animal films were a huge thing again. You had Empire of the Ants, you had Village of the Giants, you had Kingdom of the Tarantulas, and you had The Food of the Gods, which is probably the most well known one. It is for me anyway. I'd heard about it for years and never seen it, but it lives up to every bit of the hype. And I actually thought that it was a ton more enjoyable than I ever imagined it would be, just based on the premise alone. So the premise is kind of basic. You got a group of islanders, I guess you call them, that are farmers. They're just kind of, got your run of the mill farm, when one day this oil kind of goo like substance starts to come up out of the earth, and they notice that any of the animals that get around it or get in contact with it become giant, and they think, that this is a blessing from God that this is happening. But it just so turns out that all these giant animals start fucking attacking everybody that is, within distance of them. So what makes this great, though, this movie great more so than anything, is the types of animals that become these giant animals, because it's not just your run of the mill, tarantulas or things like that. So one of my favorite scenes involves giant chicken that just, I mean, for lack of a better, it's just a giant prosthetic or rubber chicken head that just comes into frame and is like pecking this guy and pecking at this guy. And then you've got giant wasps, you've got giant rats, which are probably the most featured in the film, and giant I don't know what they are exactly, like pupas or something like that, or mealworm, grub worms, something like that, that attack this woman. But the effects work is, it's simultaneously amazing and crappy at the same time. And I know that doesn't seem like it's possible, but it's a hybrid of a bunch of live action stuff, people in costumes, people in rubber suits and holding heads and stuff and things like that, of rats and chickens, and mixed with like real life footage of those things and on like a scale model. But what really sets this film apart to me is the gore in the movie is kind of like over the top. It's kind of like, it's H.G. Lewis on here, or I'm sorry, H.G. Wells on here, but it kind of reminds you of Herschel Gordon Lewis's stuff. The gore level is out of the park. So when the rats eat somebody in the film, like, there's tons of blood and screaming and thrashing and, makeup effects, and the wasp sting somebody, and you see these giant, like, head kind of blows up like 4 times the size. There's these giant, stings, boils on him and all this. The makeup effects are just amazing. Throughout the film, you just more and more kind of like giant creatures show up. And the ending sequence with the rats is truly amazing, because you've got, I don't know, probably a couple dozen rats and people in rat costumes and things like that. They're just attacking this house, and watching them go, like, I don't know exactly how that was being done, but it looks like it was like the rats were being shot by paintball guns to simulate like shotgun blasts. I mean, that's the type of movie that we're talking about here. Very, very low budget and very kind of, creative, I guess, in some ways, in the way that they were going to pull off these effects. But um, the really hard thing about this film is that there's no really great human actors or characters in the film that are that memorable. It's mostly just the effects and the events in the film that make it as memorable as it is. But boy, when they come about, they're something else. Um, but Bert Gordon, I don't know what in the world possessed him to make all these different kinds of giant animal films, but God bless him for it, because we get something like this, which was just released in this format under the Kino Cult label, which is a newer label that Kino has out right now, Kino Lorber. And in terms of special features, you got an audio commentary by film critics Lee Gambon and John Harrison, author of Wildcat, the films of Marjo Gortner. Okay. Audio commentary by writer, producer, director Bert Gordon, which I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. Interview with actress Belinda Belaski, who I believe was in The Howling and a couple of other films in the 80s as well. And of course, the theatrical trailer. This is the Blu-ray edition of this. I'm not entirely sure what other editions of this film have been out. This film looks amazing, though. Like, everything in it is crisp. The picture quality is great. The colors pop off the screen. You couldn't really ask for a better transfer than this for a film that looks every version of, like, I've seen snippets of this movie before, and every time I see it, it always looks like the worst kind of third generation VHS kind of rip that you've ever seen. So I'm not sure what the quality was like before this, but the quality on this is amazing. American International Pictures actually were the original uh, producers of this film, and that is the Roger Corman kind of interconnected production studio, but he actually did not have a lot to do with this film, from what I understand. This was like a Samuel Arkoff kind of joint, and I don't know. There's something about it. It has a very niche quality to it that if you like monster films or when animal attacks films or things like that, then you're really going to get a kick out of this movie. Uh, it's right in the perfect spot in the cult lineup. It's a cult film. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. The effects are cheesy at best and kind of laughable at worst. But you trust me when I tell you, you've got to see this film, because it's an experience that is really like no other. There's no other film that I can point to and be like, it's like this. Even the other animal attack films that you've seen really don't have a lot of the stuff this does. They don't have the gore. They don't have the weird kind of array of animals that attack people in it. This might be, the Citizen Kane of giant killer animal movies. So check out The Food of the Gods and check out Dead Pit Radio.
I'd like to tell people, thumbs up the video, Uncle Bill.
Would you?
Yes. Thumbs it up with violence and fury and just love everything about it, right, Uncle Bill?
Yeah. You hit the heart button, then you hit the ass button, then you can hit the go fuck yourself button. Follow that up with the I don't give a shit button.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. Do you know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
We have a literal jukebox full of songs and thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram and help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So deadpitonpatreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd recommend at least the $10 tier.
You can do 50. The stock market's crashing around us, folks, but send us money.